sounds not intimidating, is it?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
It's like take one more big breath, become
Exactly.
centered.
Especially since I didn't warn you. So you're like, what is about to happen? We're actually live now. Kidding. I wouldn't do that to you. Like no warning. That would be so rude.
It is so funny. I have hosted and produced 2 podcasts myself over the past 5 years. And I always think, man, I wish I sounded the same on a podcast as I do when I'm just talking to someone. And I'm getting there slowly. I always think of Nick Kroll in Parks and Rec. Did you ever see that?
I love Nick Kroll. Amazing
me too.
comedian.
Kroll's show. I wish it went longer. I got through my pregnancy and delivery on Kroll's show. It was the best. Yeah. Well, in Parks and Rec, he plays this DJ, and who is just is so misogynistic in a hilarious way, and a bigot and unintelligent, and he has a stupid radio voice. But then when he's off the air, he is talking just normally, and he's obviously a very well educated, intelligent person. And I always think of that when someone hits record and I guess on a show now that, okay, Meg, don't turn it on. It's just a conversation.
Oh, don't put on the mask. It's a real thing. So for those of you just jumping in here at the beginning of the show, we're here with Meg Thompson. How you doing today, Meg?
It's actually Meg Calvin, but I do like the last name Thompson.
Why did that happen?
Did I have another typo on my form?
Yeah, there was like a whole bunch of stuff here that came up wrong. I love that.
That's
Meg,
awesome.
how you doing today?
I am great. I think I should make that my new pen name for future books, Meg Thompson.
I absolutely love it. So, Meg, where are you at in this beautiful world?
Yes, I am in Kansas, America.
You're in like the white bread of the white bread America. Like you should be in, if there was a title for Kansas, it would be like Wonder.
Wonder,
like for Wonder Bread. Because it's all American there.
It is. And at the same time, I have to brag about my town of Winfield because it's this quirky vortex that kind of got stuck in the 80s, but is not racist and reserved all the best parts of small town life.
I wasn't saying they were racist there. I just meant that was, but you're not wrong. I mean, I grew up in the South. I get what you're saying. And it's always good to find those little microcosms of people that have a unique feel about them. They're quirky, authentic. That's the kind of people you want to be around. And actually, that can exist anywhere you go.
Totally.
It's all who you surround yourself by. It's kind of like people come together like a radio station. If you're playing the right music on that station, the people that like it are going to come to that location. Simple as that.
Yes. Well said.
And I like it that way.
Yes.
I appreciate you reaching out to us. You've got a ton of good stuff to talk about. You founded 3 businesses, right? How many books have you written?
I'm working on my 3rd book.
Working on your 3rd.
Yes.
And how many of you helped other people write?
I just signed my 51st client last week in my 4-year coaching business.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, shortest version possible. I am a writing and marketing coach. And so I help people do the deep spiritual work to write their Amazon bestselling book, memoir or nonfiction, on Audible, paperback, and Kindle. And so, and before that, I worked in the nonprofit and ministry world. I was on a church staff from age 17 to 32. And that was when my first book got picked up, was while I was a minister, and that catalyzed me into serving the way I do now as a full-time writing and marketing coach. So I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm an improv actor, I'm a sultry alto. I think that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And the fact that you're helping people put pen to paper where we tend to be our worst critics.
Right.
It's amazing when someone recognizes that they have the ability to identify the good within people that they won't point out themselves, and getting them to translate that to paper and tell a story in a manner that people can consume it and, enjoy it is a true talent. So I appreciate that you're doing that. I think that it's something that more people should do. Gary has a cool motto. It's hype your friends. And I think that fits in just about anything you can do, and just
Mhm.
being supportive with the people around you. And if you can
Mhm.
find a way to capitalize on your authentic talent,
Mm.
right,
Yeah.
and help people at the same time,
Mhm.
bonus, because then you don't
Big
have to
time.
have a side gig to fund your true passion.
So well said.
So how did you find yourself getting into helping people put their life story or their, trials or tribulations or successes on paper?
I right before this show, it came to me, or as they say in the new age woo woo world, I had a download of you got to tell this story on Jay's show. And what came to me was, and since it's the Tragedy Academy, this is safe to say, I was told when I was 16 by my mom that I probably wouldn't be able to have children. And at that point I was like, I don't want kids. I don't care. I was already a workaholic at 16. So
Oh,
I was like,
you had bought into the full American dream at that moment.
exactly like all 16-year-olds. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I didn't think about it till I fell in love and was going to get married. And then they confirmed you're going to have infertility issues. Anyway, long story
Mm.
short, we now have a almost 10-year-old daughter going on 47. And, but after she was born, I jokingly say my dog and I were spayed on the same day. But my husband informs me I was not spayed, but I had an operation. And when I was in the hospital, I had this divine mystical moment where I heard, whether we call it God, divine, source, universe, spirit, whatever word we use for that higher power, I
Exactly.
heard, you are done. You're done birthing babies. This is no more. Um, I want you to birth books. And so at that point, I thought it was just my books. And so, and obviously I 1 year later started writing my first book, and it got picked up. And then the second one got picked up 2 years later. And right after the second one dropped, I launched my business. And so, but an important part of that story that I also feel that worth sharing is I always share dates and stories. They only matter to me, probably no one else. But about 2 years before that mystical moment on in the hospital room, I was at an Enneagram retreat with my grandmother. And I'm sure you know the Enneagram. Like,
I have no idea what an Enneagram is.
really? Okay. Cool, 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 cool. So it's this it's this, how do I describe it? It's this insane, it's deeper than a personality test. It basically goes into the relational systems you were raised in as a child, how
Kind of like a
you
Myers Briggs kind of scenario, but on,
yes.
steroids or in a different
Mhm.
direction.
Yes. Yes. It goes into deeper how you feel love, how you what you value most to feel love. And and so as an Enneagram 3, the achiever performer, I only felt I think I've healed it a lot since 10 years ago, 11 years ago at that retreat. But up until that point, and this is what drove me in church ministry for so long, is I only felt worthy if I was preaching or singing. I only felt love if I was performing well, if I was impressing people. So there were some deep wounds there. But at that Enneagram retreat 11, 11 years ago, um, the question was asked of me, if there was one thing you could do that you could feel utter pleasure with, which a lot of Enneagram 3 struggle to know what brings us pleasure and joy, because we're just really like, just tell me what to do to be successful and I'll do it. But we don't really know what does bring us joy. What does pleasure even feel like or look like? But anyway, at this retreat, I was asked the question, if no one was around. It's a simple question, but for me, it was a pivotal moment. If no one was around to see you and applaud you, what is something that you could do for hours and have fun doing it? And for me, it was writing. And so that
Mm.
I think that was one stepping stone I made, was discovering the Enneagram and healing that wound of letting go of living a life of appeasing or impressing, and living a life of, well, what you said 5 hours ago before I started answering this question, what is something that brings me joy and also serves other people? And for me, that was serving with words.
First time pen hit paper in
Mm.
your hand, you knew that was something you wanted to do. But like you said, we start to learn to the need to impress, the need to get attention in different ways for whatever areas we're lacking or we're not getting in our familial unit or our friendships or whatever it is, dude. Can be so small that creates a big giant window for just a whole different character, right?
Right.
But we go through all of that. But I feel like when we come to moments where we're in our times of need or we're at crossroads, or beautifully said, I think it's cool to put the details in how we come to these conclusions and these milestones in life. One of the things that I think we lose over time is, or we create a buffer between us and our true self, right? Who we are, the mask, and who we're supposed to be, right? We're discussing that. And we will layer that mask over time. Whereas you knew in the beginning you were a writer. You've been a writer your entire life. It was what you were compelled to do. Probably the four were put in a position to question things or the status quo. That's when we're closest to that voice of who we originally were. And that voice has been trying to communicate with us throughout our entire lives. And I do believe that we have our own form of divinity and that, one thing can't exist outside of the other. So my argument would be is that while it's God, it's also you telling you where you're supposed to be and what the next step is. You've always known. I think that people ignore that inner voice. I don't even ignore it. I think that we pile dirty laundry on it and leave it in the corner of the room and it's muffled in there until we're forced to go through on laundry day, which is usually in your 40s, right about now. Americans with a midlife crisis. Okay? That's laundry day. And then you get a moment. You can either listen to the voice that day or you can start throwing your underwear back on it and moving on. But then that's a choice. If you've heard the voice once, then you have a choice. Do I continue down this road or do I ignore it? Right? You didn't ignore it. Right? You found your calling. You listened to yourself, source, God, divinity, big spaghetti monster, whatever you want to call it. Right? As long as it can affect so much change on a much larger scale by each individual person. One of the things that I was going to bring up was that we had a show recently where there's something called the Rising Star Experience, right? And this guest was explaining how Manny Bain, that he was taking people's life stories and branding them in movie format, right? And giving them a chance to put who they were up on the screen, and memorialize it. And also give people, when you are out there trying to interact in life and somebody wants to know who you are, you need to get through the minutia now, right? As long as dude, if religion gives you a moral compass, rock on. Right? I have no issues, no qualms, just don't hurt other people. That's it.
That's it.
I feel like we're all praying to the same God anyway.
Right.
It's just in different formats. At the end of the day, we're all just trying to be who we were intended to be. Right? And I think that you've made taken a great opportunity and turned it into something that there gives people the ability to assess your brand. But I argue there's a byproduct. Same thing with what you're doing. Nobody's going to put pen to paper and put their worst character down. They're going to put the best version of themselves, even in the worst times. Right? So that's a benchmark. From the moment that book is written, as they move forward through time, they have to go back and reference whether or not they're the person that they put on paper. Am I maintaining my true and authentic self that I said I was in this book? Or have I become somebody different? And it's not bad to become somebody different. That's just another book or another chapter. But if you're just a completely different character, then you've strayed from who you've helped them bring to the surface. So I think that that's something that, it's a great way for people to maintain mindfulness over a broad amount of time.
I'm sitting in the question if I'm hearing you right, that leaves space for evolution, because
Absolutely.
everything healthy grows. And so,
100%.
yes. But I hear you saying that if someone's writing like transformational nonfiction, for example, and they're helping the reader arrive at a certain space emotionally or mentally or spiritually, that the writer too needs to walk the walk that they're teaching.
They're not going to want to read it if you're not being your true self. We know this.
Yes, it's so true. And they can feel it. They can feel it in our marketing.
You can read a smile without reading the word smile.
Yes.
Right? You can read pain without reading the words pain. You can read darkness. And when people are putting that much into what they're writing on the paper, words may be what we're looking at and consuming, but I truly believe there's something tied to each and every one, and that you're still consuming the feeling of that person. There is a separate existence of whatever their emotion is as it goes along. And I think that transcends time. So you can open a book that's 3,000 years old and have a tear come to your eye. The same tear that was being, that was coming down the eye of the person that was putting it on paper then, right? You can't tell me it's paper and lead, scratching across paper. No, it's there's something more to it. And I think that, you're memorializing things in that way.
There was once an author, I can't think of her name, darn it, but she said that she wishes she would have written her books in sand as she has grown over the time. And I disagree with her. She writes theological nonfiction. And so she, of course, she has evolved. And some
No, of course is an okay word there, because if you think you're not evolving throughout your lifetime, you're wrong. Even if you're not evolving, you're still evolving.
That's true. That's true. That is true. That is true. Whether it's consciously or unconsciously, 90%
not evolving
of us
is evolving.
Yes, that's true. Not evolving. Yes. And I disagree with this author because I feel that books have a life form, a life of their own, and that we are chosen to, like artists, we are chosen to release them. And then they have a life of their own. It makes me think of Stephen Sondheim, who wrote tons of musicals, including Guys and Dolls. And when he wrote the lyrics for Guys and Dolls, he hated the lyrics. He hated them. He hates all the music from there. And so what I take from that as an author, what I encourage authors I partner with to believe, is that we don't have to fully understand the book, or even some days we might not even like the book idea, but we don't have to understand it to surrender to it and let it come up and out of us. I think too many times a cause of writer's block is waiting till they have it all figured out. Like, what's the title? Who's the ideal reader? What's the format? What's the flow? And instead of just surrendering to it and saying, I see you, idea, I hear you, I love you. As lame as that may sound, it's true. I love you, book idea. I feel free to speak up. I'm not going to verbally beat the shit out of you. I'm listening, and I don't fully understand you yet, but I'm ready to take the first step of committing to releasing you. Even if the part of my brain that wants to put words and meanings to everything hasn't quite figured you out yet, I will. You've chosen me to release you, and I will release you to the world and help others with you, knowing that my writing style will evolve potentially. My ideal reader will evolve potentially. But this book is going to keep serving people with or without me for years to come.
I mean, people will balk on the authentic curb all day long. They'll stand on it like a cliff with a blindfold on, got a cigarette. It's the end of their life, and authenticity is the ground. And it's just that one step. And that book, it's not that they're trying to put together everything in their head, right?
Right.
These people say this. They'll come to us. They're like, well, I need to focus on, I need to storyboard this and really come up with how I'm going to approach it. And I need to think about what people are going to think about this and blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a shit. Just sit down and start writing it. It will happen. Go ahead and do it. It's already there. Are you going to screw up? Yes, that's part of learning it. Especially if you're writing nonfiction or stuff about yourself. That's transformational. And not wanting to start that is just fear of success.
Yeah. Upper limit
Fear of
problem.
success. Because at the end of the day, you're going to get through judgment. And we all want success, but for some reason we're afraid of it because at that point we're in our rawest form. We know we have to be authentic to get there. Right? We can't get out there in front of everybody and wear a mask because what?
Yes.
Everybody's going to know you're wearing a mask. They're going to see it.
Right.
You're going to be never going to be the star. You're always going to be the backup artist. Right? And everybody's the star in their own play. But don't be a backup, singer in your own play. Like, what's the point of that? Like, if I have to be a backup singer in my metaphor for life, I'm going to be the one that gets discovered from being a backup singer.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like where has he been? Right? Nobody saw this guy. You can't live in the shadows of yourself. Right? Or what other people, or what you believe other people expect of you.
Yes.
Horseshit. I think you're giving people a voice, honestly, for the parts that they don't have the guts to give a voice to or to give the respect to. We don't love ourselves.
Yes. Oh, it's so true. One of the first questions I ask an author I'm serving on our first Zoom session together, because we Zoom once a week, and then we're, of course, in Voxer, and then we're in a Google Doc building the book together. But on our first session, there's an intuitive exercise we do. I ask them 10 questions about what the book's told them so far. And it's amazingly encouraging and enlightening of how much stuff comes out. And they're really funky questions. Like, if your book was to be conceived by two other books, what would those two books be stylistically, or based on subject, or based on feel of the book? And every author knows it. Another one is if your book was to have a literal jacket, not a book jacket, but to wear a jacket, what would that jacket be? Would it be
a personality? I like this.
And every writer knows these answers, and there's 10 of them, and they just are really encouraging. They align me with the book and the author, and they also give the author this huge confidence boost of, oh, I know a lot more than I thought I did. I know this book. Okay, I'm good. Well, the last
correlations are great.
Yes. And the last question is, what is one thing you're afraid the book is going to ask you to write about? And every author, including myself, knows that. And every person I've served, except for one client, ended up writing that in the story because it was most importantly, the reason is there was a lesson in it for the reader. And so, and they vulnerably shared. So that's going back to what you were saying about, it's easy to write about yourself in a really good light, but can you tell the whole story in a memoir and or an anecdote in a nonfiction book? So yes, the answer is yes. And every author feels that from my experience. They feel what the book is asking them, and they're kind of afraid. And so I get to help them get unblocked in that area.
I loved the first question, specifically asking what two books would birth your book.
Yes.
That threw me through a loop when you said that. You said, authors know exactly what they're going to do. And I know my book. My book it's here. It's just a matter of time. And it's a matter of when I get a chance to sit down after the stars align. However, when you said that, I immediately just froze. Because I love so many styles. I don't really even like authors. I like books, because authors, just like artists, just like musicians, are forced to recreate what they did the first time and dilute it over and over, throughout time. We've seen it. Every great musician, like, album number 3, or whatever. And it's true, because somebody got in front of him, so we can make some money off of you. Make 3 more albums of these, right? And we just dilute the shit out of it.
Do you want me to respond to that?
Yes, please.
I was waiting. I was like, is that a dramatic pause?
There was a delay on Riverside, so your face was kind of frozen for a second.
That's awesome.
I wasn't paused for dramatic effect.
You were like, mic drop. I'm going to let that sink in.
Yeah, just take that. No, I'm not that dude.
So what came to me is Kurt Cobain, when you were talking about diluted over time.
I love him and Amy Winehouse.
Yes. And I've always played guitar in church settings, so very easy contemporary Christian songs. And then during COVID, like most people, I was lonely and thinking, what do I need to stay sane? And I thought, I need to get back in guitar lessons. So I have a wonderful friend, Scott, who's my guitar ninja, I call him. And I got an electric guitar. So now I have 2. And I told him, I want to learn to play rock. And I want to have that cathartic release of playing power chords. Power chords or bar chords? Which one is easier?
Power chords is
easier.
And but he plays bar chords as well.
Okay. Whichever one of those is power chords is what Scott taught me, because I whined too much with bar chords. I was like, teach me power chords.
Oh, and so your hands were hurting.
Yeah. And Scott, he's almost in his 70s. So he taught, that matters, because he was in Chicago in the 90s doing lessons, and everyone was playing one band in lessons, and that was Nirvana in the 90s. So he, being the musical savant that he is, he knows all the Nirvana songs, all the top ones by heart. So he goes, would you like to start with Nirvana? And I said, yes. Why am I telling you this? Because there's this formula to Cobain songs that Scott told me every song, do this 4 times, do this 4 times, do this in the chorus, in the verse, do this 4. And there was so I do see what I thought of that when you said that there's this.
He didn't want to go any further. He said that out loud. I'm sure we've heard it. It's like, they're going to abuse my music. They're going to tear apart my art. And you got to understand that when somebody truly finds, I'm not saying you, but when someone finds their purpose for being here, that true, authentic purpose, whatever that art is, if you try to extinguish that once it's been found, you may as well be killing that person because they're never going to be able to be themselves again. You're damning them to servitude, to an image that they created at one moment in time. Right? And you have the ability to evolve, right? I don't want my artists to continue to play the same crap. Like, it drives me insane. Now, I love, going back to, the songs that I listen to in a certain time, right? For me, music is a time machine. It transports me when I hear it to the location within myself or the emotion within myself that's closely tied to when I heard that.
Definitely.
Right? And it stays there, or the emotion that I can feel in the voice's instrument, or, the individual playing the music. I'll get tied to that. That's why, again, I get tied to art, not artists, because I think that everybody has the potential to create the most amazing art in their own way. Right? We will surrender our time, our mindful moments to creators of these things, but not all of them are creating equally.
Yes.
The majority are out there doing what? They're killing Cobain. They're taking something and they're trying to widget it and survive on it. And that's not their fault either, because that's how the system works. In order for an artist to live off of their art, they've got to make it consumable, at least in their mind, right? We don't trust ourselves enough to believe that if we just created from that same passionate place, whether it evolved or not, people will come with us. right? And I think they will. And I think that we've seen this over time, that there are people that have taken their fans with them and they've been on a journey and they've seen them go from being one artist to another. Madonna is one of these, right? Madonna has been 20 different people, but has taken each generation or each area of the world and sewn them together into one giant tapestry of art. Right. And you could say her name in Brazil, and it doesn't mean what it means in Germany or in America. It has a different meaning, but the art still drew everyone together. Right. It's lenses. It's absolutely lenses. I like the metaphor or analogy that once you start to look over your shoulder for the praise or acceptance of the people that are viewing what you're painting, you're no longer painting for yourself.
Yeah.
When you look back and you start putting it up there for someone else's eyes, for their acceptance, then it's no longer anything. It's the same thing when you're writing a book, right? We can write, children's books are really bad about this. There's a ton of children's books that it's like, just because you can rhyme doesn't mean you should be doing a children's book. But so let me ask you this. Have you had to help someone in a moment where they were apprehensive about a specific thing that they should share in their book? I know that there's probably one for everyone because everybody's got theirs, but are there some standout moments where you saw somebody traverse what is a very personal hurdle right there on paper before it even hits the bookshelf?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Yes. I have a standout moment with myself as a writer and then with another author that I partnered with. Definitely. And it reminds me of the quote by comic Jason Alexander, I believe is his name. The quote is very simple and it really rocks the boat. The quote is, "Write like your parents are dead."
That is so good.
Yeah. So
Dance
good.
like nobody's watching.
Yes. Yes. And for some writers, it's not their parents in the inner critic spot.
Correct. That's why I said dance like nobody's watching.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And so, which story do you want to hear? My own as a writer or the author I partnered with? One of the authors.
Let's do both.
Both stories. Okay. Both stories. Okay. I will tell the other authors first.
Love your energy.
And then I'll tell mine. I'm glad.
You're a goof like me. You like being a
Yes.
cartoon character. That's who I am when I go around the house. The moment I realized that I wasn't being me and I needed to go back to self, man, my wife watched the evolution of a cartoon character in real life. It was like she was moved in with Roger Rabbit. Like it was not like, what is going on? I'm like, dude, I'm just being me.
Yes.
Screw the suits, screw the sport coat. How did you get through that hurdle?
Yes. And so with this one author, the thing that this author wanted to write was going to cause his parents much sadness. And so what we did was, I'm going to pause myself. The story the author was telling himself was that this was going to cause his parents sadness. I'll leave it there. So an exercise that we did and that I do with my own writing is you write two versions of that chapter. One version, most likely openness across your shoulders. There's chills in some parts of, not chills of shame or fear, but chills of warmth and love. You notice your
relief,
body.
I'm sure.
Relief, yes. And then you notice the state of flow that you mentally get in, and you just take note of that. And then you go to write a second version of the chapter, which is, how do I filter? How do I edit? How do I transpose this same chapter in a way that is coming from a place of appeasing this inner critic? And then you notice, how does my body feel? Okay, I feel tightness in my jaw. I'm really angry that I feel repressed right now. Okay, I do feel shame, which for me is chills on the back of my arms, is what shame feels like to me. Man, my head hurts in between my eyes because I'm fucking overthinking everything. This is am I still not done with this chapter? I've been here for 2 hours. And so you notice, and then you choose which chapter you want to put in the book. And all the time, it's the first one, which then the second step is okay, so now we've chosen this first chapter. We're now going to have a sweaty palm conversation, not seeking permission from the person who's the inner critic, but informing them. I'm publishing this book. I am telling this story because it's from a place of serving my readers, period. And I want you to know about it. And it's 9 times out of 10, very healing when those sweaty palm conversations happen with a person. And especially because the authors I partner with, their frequency is one of service to others. They're not throwing shade to throw shade. They're not vengeful. They've done the deep work to heal shit. And so they're on the other side of it. As Nadia Bolz-Weber says, they're teaching from their scars, not their wounds. And so whatever they're writing, the frequency is grace-filled. It's coming from a place of service to reader. And so that has helped authors very much doing it that way. And I myself did that exercise too. So
you're creating a safe space to work from, where they feel they have the ability to express themselves openly. I also think that you're also laying down a foundation for forgiveness in their mind for the person that they're working with in that chapter. You're going to be a lot more accepting of somebody that you just wrote your entire interaction with them on paper if they were standing beside you nodding with a smile, right? You're going to understand them when you get there, and maybe figure out in that moment that we're not designed to think what other people think of us. I say it like that because it is that nonsensical. I can barely drive my own car. I can't get out there, drive yours coming back towards me at the same time, right? Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work.
So I have to think about this. We'll walk away from an interaction with somebody and think about where we left off. Or we'll remember the next time we see them, where were we in this proverbial game of BS? We don't need to do that, right? If we're authentic, there's no need to remember where you left off, right? Or in these situations, when you're writing those books, I mean, it gives you the opportunity to be authentic, to put it on paper as yourself.
Is your parents are, or whoever the voice of the inner critic is. It might be a pastor for some. It might be a old basketball coach, grandparent, whoever that voice is. You write the chapter like they are supportive, 100% supportive, or like they're never going to read it, whichever makes you feel better. But the support, the feeling of support usually improves the exercise. And as you write it, you notice how fast you write. You notice the sensations in your body.
One time only. And then do it through your eyes, right? Your position and experience matters.
Right.
People need to know that they matter, that your story deserves to be heard, no matter what it's about. I don't care if you're like an underwater basket weaver for life. It's interesting to somebody. right? Or if not anything, it's loving yourself enough to put your legacy on paper, right? Whether anybody reads it or not. If your book needs an audience, don't write it.
Wow, that's profound. Yes. Yes, it reminds me of what I always say, which is the book, if your book idea is speaking up louder, like my dog, if your book idea is speaking up louder, it is for two reasons. Because it wants to give you the joy and the cathartic release of writing it. And equally as important, but not more important, the need to be helped by your book is growing within others outside of you. And the timing of the book is perfect.
Dude, that's a hand from childhood reaching forward to the adult self saying it's okay.
It's okay.
Right?
100%. Yes.
You know, I know you haven't been here in a while. I'm here right now. You've grown up. Look at me. Do you really need to be mad at me? Would you be mad at any other kid? No. Right? It's an opportunity to heal deep, deep wounds. And I don't want to forget, you were about to tell us how you were able to overcome something in your own writing.
Yes. 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 I'm pretending to be an introvert and pausing before I speak.
Oh, I thought you were pretending to freeze.
No.
You're not getting out of this. Like, I know what you're doing. I do this to my mom. This is going out. I'll call you back. The whole fake thing.
I'm in a tunnel.
I'm in a tunnel.
Yes. Yes. So my second book was what would happen if a nun conceived a book baby with Seth Meyers. And yeah, let that sink in.
I love the sarcastic nun. Let's go.
Yes, totally. Self-deprecating.
Oh,
and it combined the two books. No Judgment, Donald Miller, Blue Like Jazz from 2004 with Tina Fey's Bossy Pants from 2008. It combined those two books and it's called I Am My Own Sanctuary, How a Recovering Holy Roller Found Healing and Power. And for my non-religious readers, it's for recovering people pleasers. And so anyway, in this book, I poke fun at purity culture in the South, because I was raised in Texas. I came to Kansas for college and fell in love with this.
Okeechobee, Florida.
Yeah, okay.
On a dairy. I grew up like literally catching calves with my grandfather after they were born so that they could haul the cow off to be milked. Like that was what I did as a kid. I've been shocked by 1,000 electric fences. I went through all the BS. I'm with you. I understand this world. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church in the choir, standing with like 12 old women and me.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It looked like Forrest Gump or something when he was singing. It just didn't match.
Wow. That's hilarious. I love that. So yeah, you get the pros and cons to Southern Belle culture in the South. Yeah. And so I have so many wounds that I've gotten to the gift of healing. I turned 38. Is that how old I am? In June.
Stop.
And so I have gotten on the journey, gotten to heal lots of wounds around sexuality and body image. And purity culture did a number on me in the church. So in the chapter over that, in the first draft, I withheld sharing my own story with sex and sexuality. And I just shared other much smarter people's thoughts on how we should view sex. And so I didn't go deep in the anecdote in that area, although I really wanted to, but I was afraid.
You knew you were supposed to.
Yeah, 100%. And and so this is going to be kind of woo woo, but I'm going to share it because it serves. I was working with Traditional Publishing Company. My first two books were under, and they reached out and they said, you have 1 week left to change anything you want to change in this book. And I knew I have to tell my story of sex. And even though I'm going to lose the respect of 3 Christian mentors in my life. Because at that point, I wore the label of Christian very proudly. And I was afraid to lose love. I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid to be alone. Shunned. So I was hosting the Listening Chair podcast with my friend Miranda. Then we had on this modern day mystic from Emory University. None of that matters. Anyway, this modern day mystic, he said, listen to your dreams. And at this point, I wasn't at all metaphysical or new agey. I was very mainline Protestant, all that. Anyway, he said, listen to your dreams. Your ancestors speak in your dreams. And I thought, okay, sure. I didn't. And then the next day,
I was the same way before I started meditating.
Yeah,
I didn't believe anything. And I still, you'll never see me in Birkenstocks or running around with, like, I won't be selling you wolf tapestries on the side of the road or anything like that. But I see you. You guys, I see you. Yes. I know you're there. Feel validated. I'm just not going to be there with you.
I might be selling the wolf tapestries someday.
Good for you. I, however, have so much shame and guilt, and I worry about what other people think that I'd probably not be able to. I'm not comfortable enough with myself to sell a wolf tapestry yet.
Yeah,
I can admit that.
I love how you added the word yet.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Someday I will do that.
Someday. Yes, if it feels in alignment. And someday you might not. But at this point in the journey, circa 2018, 19, I did not. I was like, this is baloney, whatever. Well, then the next day I listened to another podcast with my friend, the Reverend Dr. Katie Valentine, who I ended up working for and learning from. And she said, listen to your dreams. Your dreams guide you. Ancestors and past lives come up in your dreams. And there was something in that moment that felt like home to me. And I was making the decision, the scary decision, do I change my book and talk about my experience of sex and my sexual journey, even though I will lose respect of Christian mentors of mine? Do I do that? Well, I always tell this story out of order. No, I don't. Anyway, focus, Meg. That night I went to bed. Obviously, that's what someone does at night. And I remember thinking, maybe there's something here that both these podcasters and 2 days apart gave me this message. Maybe there's something in my dreams. Maybe past lives are real. And all I know about my ancestors is, on my maternal side, Scotland, mid 1700s, my ancestors, there was a married couple, the McNains, and they were burned at the stake by Catholics for writing Protestant literature that really rocked the boat. And so
rocked the boat. I love 2 religions that are about as the same as they could possibly be.
Exactly.
Rocking the boat.
Yeah.
You put a comma in the Bible. Like there's no real rational reason. They do like everything the same.
Yes.
And they're burning people at the stake for this. I'm sorry for your loss in the 1700s. Make sure I'm not being insensitive to all the people that were burnt at the stake. It's true. I mean, that's wild though. So you're in your dreams. You're
yeah.
So tell me about this.
Yes. And so I thought maybe there's something to this. Maybe, who knows? Well, I went to bed that night and I didn't have any dreams, but I woke up and my 4-year-old daughter came walking. I'm getting chills already. Can't make this shit up. My 4-year-old daughter at the time came down the hall, and this matters for dream interpretation. What I'm going to say next, she was not afraid. She was very calm and she rubbed her cute little eyes and she goes, I had the weirdest dream last night. And I said, you did? What were you, well, tell me about it. And she said, you and I were up high and these people had sticks of fire and they were poking my leg and your legs with it. And I was covered in chills and I thought, holy shit, I think this is for me. This is a message for me. But of course, intuition is quieted by the overanalytical mind. And I began asking her questions like, are you studying fire safety at school this week? And she said,
I didn't see one of those plastic red hats.
Yeah. And so
that's amazing. We want to squash that shit quickly.
Yeah. And almost landing the plane, I called a friend of mine, Jamal Javanji, who is an amazing life coach and very, very
It's an
much
amazing name.
right. It is. He's
Jamal
also
Javanji.
great author too. And I called him and I said, this is what happened. Am I losing my mind? And then without missing a beat, he said to me, Meg, you need to write the book how you want to write it. You're not going to be burned this time. Write the book. And I am again covered in chills. So I went home and I edited that whole chapter, told the raw, 100% real, honest story of my sexual journey and sex and all the wounds and everything. And it's the most talked about chapter that readers reach out to me about. They reach out
Imagine
about
that.
Yeah. And so that was my journey. And then the 3 Christian mentors I was the most worried about, I messaged them before the book came out and I said, this might be unnecessary, but I want you to know before you read this book that our views are very different. And I want to thank you for your influence. And my business coach at the time, who's still my business coach, told me, when you are healthy, you will outgrow, not you will, sometimes you will outgrow mentors. And they serve you for the time they're supposed to. And it's a seasonal mentorship, but it's okay if you outgrow them. And so, but the feedback that I got from other women and men about how helpful that chapter was, it affirmed in me that I did the right thing by sharing vulnerably. And I'm thankful, even if someone wants to say past lives don't exist and epigenetics doesn't exist, and none of that moment really, that wasn't real, what I felt through my daughter. Yeah, maybe it's not, but the fruit of it led to true life change.
Feel the need to defend things that are intangible or can't be explained to others, or that have been given the title of woo and things like that, right? But in reality, it's your experience and your experience alone. You're entitled to take it in, and you're entitled to speak about it any way that you feel. The issue is that people they've made spiritual feelings taboo, and or it has to fall into one of these categories to be true, or some other BS. In reality, right, we do know that we all suffer from some form of genetic and hereditary insanity. We know that it can be picked up through just how a parent raised a child who's raising another child. The demeanor of the first one is going to have an outcome on the third, right? That in and of itself. But if we've seen, like, evolution shows you that there's groups of people that will over time evolve their culture, what they believe in, as they go through the world. Dude, it's all fluid. There's nothing etched in stone, right? And honestly, I think that, I say it all the time on the show, it's like a pizza, right? That's what religion is, or spirituality, whatever you want to call it. Starts somewhere in the Mesopotamian River Valley and it goes out in a circle, right? And every slice has a different topping, but it's still pizza. It's still pizza. It's just being described in a different way, or it's got some flavor from another area on it, because that's what we do. right? If you live in an area where olives are prevalent, you're going to put olives on your pizza, right?
Mhm.
If you live in an area that has sushi, you're going to put sushi on it, but we're not worried about what people think of us. So
Mhm.
obviously, that's got to be the time where we have the most connection with our inner self, where we can give ourselves those little whispers in the ear that says,
Mhm.
you should be doing this.
Mhm.
The ones that we won't hear during the day, that we have to get through signs,
Mhm.
right? Did you see the signs? Did you hear the signs? No, they were always there. You just paid attention at times.
Mhm.
It was always yelling to you from every different direction.
Mhm.
You're just walking around not wanting to see it for fear of you're going to get judged for being yourself.
Mhm.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. When you use the word me talking to me,
Pizza.
pizza. Yes.
No, I'm kidding.
How are
Pizza's
you
really deep,
defining
Jay.
pizza in that situation? No. Do you think you're talking to like your higher self?
Mm,
Is that what you
absolutely.
mean when you say you talking to
I
you?
don't think there's a difference. I think one
Oh,
is me
okay.
experiencing me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in order for me to exist, something has to be watching me.
Yeah. Yep.
Without an observer, I'm not here. So there
Mm-hmm.
has to be something. But then again, I can't exist independent of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Neither can God,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're still one of something.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, we're connected. I'm talking to whomever or whatever is the other side of me.
Mm-hmm.
And all this other stuff is just shit in the middle that I've experienced that I need to go back to the beginning and rekindle that flame and start over. But now I have seasonings. I have things that I can use that I picked up over time and give real emotion to writing.
Yeah.
I can give pain. I can give hilarity.
Mm-hmm.
I can show juxtaposition. I have things to call upon.
Yeah.
And a gifted person like you with language has the ability to use those anecdotes, but in different formats where it could not be even remotely related, but that particular comparison exists in so many different forms. It's your job as a human, to translate the experience for as many people as possible,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
To help people be able to get new prescription lenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because experiences are layered over time, just like the lenses on your glasses,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't share them, right? You can't put them on, I can't put on yours, but you can teach people how to write their prescription to hand to others.
That's so good.
No, I'm dropping the mic. No, I'm kidding.
Yes. Definitely a mic drop moment.
So we had something else that you had come across that we were going to discuss, and we did not bring it up yet.
And that is totally fine.
No, and the reason why I say that is because I want to have you back,
Okay.
because I think that particular situation deserves its own platform, because judging from the way that you shared your situation, I feel like you don't have the same position as most with how you're viewing it.
Oh,
And
yes.
I believe that is something that people could benefit from hearing. That's a lens that they can use to maybe re-examine their own situation and get some kind of resolution or some kind of relief from whatever it is that they've been carrying. So I'm being cryptic so that if you're listening to this episode, you're going to be like,
Yes.
right?
Amazing
So,
marketing.
It is, right?
The marketer in me bows down to you.
Dude, if I marketed, I'd actually be making more money. I just constantly, I don't like to brag. Like, I feel like it's bragging. I was stifled as a kid to not be myself.
Mm.
I was told being myself was something bad, annoying, a problem, those types of things. So even when I'm selling my show that I've slaved over for 5 years, building end to end, everything about it, to stand up on the show and be like, listen to us and give us a donation and buy a shirt and this, that, and the other. I hate it.
Mm.
Like, legitimately. If you want to support me, make me not have to say it and go and give a donation on PayPal or Ko-Fi or buy me a coffee. That's me begging right now for money. So
Do you think your show is helpful?
absolutely. It does bring a huge benefit. We get it in the messages that we receive, the discussions that I have offline with people on social media. Absolutely know that it's value add. And that in and of itself is a huge step for me. To even believe that I have something that I've created that is value add or that I've created. I'm damn good at doing what everybody else needs me to do. If you want your to rise to the top, hire me. I'll get it there every single time. But I'm going to hate doing it every single second. I will self-medicate and want to jump off a bridge because I'm doing your dream every single day and widgeting it. I can't do that. It has to be mine. It's got to be my dream or no dream. And my dream is to help other people achieve their dreams. So it's fun.
It's so fun. And I hear you saying you think it's helpful.
I do absolutely believe it's helpful.
So it makes me want to ask another question, which is, if you saw someone sinking in the ocean and only you had a life preserver, would you throw them a life preserver to help them?
Absolutely.
Is marketing not the same if you think your product is helpful?
That's a great point.
Simple, but great.
It is. And that goes back to self-worth.
Definitely.
Self-worth. I openly say I am my own worst critic. I think for more people about me than anybody else on the planet. But that's why I meditate. And that's why I tell other people mindfulness, do these things, because it's not just for you, it's for me too. Right? I'm reminding myself, hey, dude, get your head out of the vacuum and watch them all live the insanity for a few minutes and don't comment, just observe. And you get to see more and more that people are doing what? They're wearing that mask we were describing.
Yeah.
They're running around, they're maintaining it, they're polishing, rubbing it with a cloth. They're detailing this. This is my trauma mark right here. I need to make sure I put lights on it because that means that if I have that, nobody expects me to be in the success bucket. I have my scar here on my mask that says I could have been, should have been, would have been, but it was taken away from me. But you can give me the accolades as somebody that tried or would have tried. That's a lazy ass way to be a victim, by the way.
Yeah, right? Definitely.
When the difference between you and the other person you're trying to emulate through your victimhood is action. If we spent as much time painting our mask as we did on the things that we wanted to be, we'd all be successful.
Yeah.
It'd be brilliant.
Definitely.
Think about all the wasted time that we spend with our backs to life painting our own personal mask while the world just goes around us.
Yeah.
And we're just sitting there. What are they going to think of me? And then you turn around, ta-da! And then you turn back around and you start painting again based on what happened. Idiots. We're idiots. Tell me we're not insane.
We are capable of idiocracy. Yes. Yes.
Great movie.
100%. Awesome movie. Yes.
Eerily coming true. Like, it scares me when I watch it. I'm like, I'm waiting to like come out my door and bump into Upgrade.
And the toilet seat was Dax Shepard going to the toilet in the couch. Yeah,
man, dude.
Yeah,
Dax is such an amazing actor too. So it was that movie, or not Dax. What's his name?
Wilson? Nope.
Yes,
the lead.
Luke Wilson.
There it is. Yep.
Yeah, one of them. But yes, he did a great job in that movie. It was amazing.
Yes,
and they predicted a lot of things, but it's not hard to predict it. It's not. I mean, we're writing our future every day.
So true.
I believe science fiction is where our future lies because it's the least inhibited art that we allow on screen. We give no limits to science fiction, and every day we achieve what we've put on the screen over and over and over faster than we do any other thing we put up there. You want to go that direction? We're going that direction.
Yeah.
If we wrote it a different one, we'd head that way, but that is the least inhibited. And when we don't put a regulation or some kind of hindrance on true passion and true art, it comes true every time. It always happens because it's got the most power.
Yes.
You're not going to tell a science fiction guy he can't draw a laser eye that flies around the room and tells everybody, it's a spy, right? But now we have what? Little cameras that fly the size of an ant that are recording things in a room. But if you'd have read that in the 80s, you'd be like, what the is this? Right? But the other people can't write that way.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to judge what they're saying. So I don't know. I love artists. I love that.
Same.
Uninhibited. Why don't you tell people where they can find you so that they can check out your services, see what you've written, read your books, and what, the people that you've helped and get into their literature as well.
Yes. So I'd love to connect with people on Instagram at Hey Meg Calvin on Instagram. Love to connect there. And then since we're talking about marketing, I do have a free gift I love to give away on podcast. Could I give that to your audience?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I have is a free 20-minute video. It's called 3 Ways to Make Marketing Your Book More Fun and Less Frustrating. And the principles in that can be used to market any business or any product. And so if you want that 3 ways to make marketing your book more fun and less frustrating, go to megcalvin.com and you can find it there. And yeah, that'll help you push out your helpful and good content that others are hungry for.
And you deserve a voice for that content, especially if you took the time to sit there and create it. It deserves an audience.
Definitely.
You deserve that audience for what you put your time and effort into. So, and finding someone like yourself is what people need, right? Someone that can help them bring their tree to fruition. I like to say that when we hit our knees, we get to plant our tree.
Oh, I love that.
And that's when we grow into something new. And you're there with water, fertilizer, instructions, just going from each one to each one, telling them, if you do it this way, you're going to have a healthy tree.
Definitely.
Right? And I think that that's an amazing gift to give back. And I appreciate you for it.
I received that.
Remember, everybody, be cool and keep learning.